Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, fellow listeners. Commercial Human Capital Development Show is back. Once again, your host is myself, Sam Zima. I'm going to be taking you through a very interesting topic today, diversity management and inclusion. We are going to be looking at the key components of a program that you could introduce in your organization, in your community, at your school, anywhere where there are people and where diversity is the uppermost, most important challenge or the opportunity that you want to harness. I'm going to be allowing you some time to settle down as I organize the check-in song. In the meantime, take down the contact details of Commercial Office. You can call us at +2711 974 9308 or at our mobile +2772 376 7503, or you may send us an email at callcenter@commerza-goc.com. Call center is spelled CALLCENTRE, and it is at commerza-goc.com. Settle down, find yourself a glass of water or a cup of coffee. Just relax and enjoy our checking in song as I get ready to kick off with the show. Wow, beautiful song. Checking in there. I hope this has prepared you to be ready to listen attentively to this topic we are going to be engaging on. Very important topic indeed, the topic of diversity management and inclusion. In the checking in, we try to calm you down to make you focus, to be present with all your senses, to make sure that when we start engaging in such important topic, you are with us fully and you are looking forward. A couple of points I would like to address in terms of this topic. I'm going to start by looking at the principle of diversity management and inclusion. We will then touch on the definition of diversity management, and then we'll look at the adaptability. We then proceed into the process that you may follow in your implementation of diversity programs in your organization. We will look at then at the business and economic rationale for introducing diversity management and inclusion in your organization. I will share with you some implementation guidelines and then the best practices, and then we will close the session by checking in once again with a nice song. Let's look at the principle. The underlying principle of diversity management has to do with acceptance. While individuals retain their own sense of values and ethics, diversity management encourages people to recognize that not everyone is alike. Rather than being intimidated or prejudiced by those differences, employees are encouraged to accept the fact that there are diverse interests, diverse values, and diverse physical and emotional characteristics present within the office environment. Further, the diversity present in the office does not have to hamper productivity or create conflict. Instead, the diversity may function as helpful attribute that promotes the attainment of the goals and objectives of the organization. That's the underlying principle of diversity management. And we will broaden this by looking into how we then combine diversity management and inclusion to form one concrete program, diversity management and inclusion program in any organization. Let's look at definition. Diversity management is a strategy that is intended to foster and maintain a positive workplace environment, usually initiated by human resources professionals and managed by departmental heads and supervisors. An effective diversity management program will promote recognition and respect for the individual differences found among a group of employees. The idea of this management style is to encourage employees to be comfortable with diversity in the workplace and develop an appreciation for differences in race, gender, background, sexual orientation, or any other factors that may not be shared by everyone working in the same area of the company. That's diversity management in terms of definition. Inclusion, on the other hand, enabling the full participation and contribution of all human resources in support of the mission of the organization by eliminating implicit barriers, leveraging the diversity talents and attributes of the entire workforce by configuring work opportunities, business processes, functional operations, rewards systems, work-life options, professional interactions, communications, information sharing, and decision-making to empower the full potential of all the employees. Those are the two definitions of diversity management and the inclusion. Let's look at the adaptability. Diversity management can be adapted to many different types of working environments and be integrated into many different types of management styles. Promoting recognition and acceptance of diversity among the employees can convert a hostile workplace environment into a welcoming environment where people freely communicate and support one another with any tasks associated with the job. And in doing so, the implementation of a diversity management approach often makes it possible for productivity levels to increase dramatically. What are the type of processes that one needs to look at? Or what is the process of implementing diversity that one can look at? Implementing a diversity management program successfully is not an overnight task. It can be very tricky and very complicated. Often, the process of fostering a more accepting work environment takes time and dedication, and there must be a commitment by management and leadership to make it work. However, with patience, time, and structured efforts to educate employees, a diversity management policy and program will eventually make a huge difference in the communication among employees and the general productivity of the company. As a result of diversity management process, the work environment becomes very conducive for the high-level performance and productivity of everybody involved in the business of the organization. You're probably asking yourself, why is diversity management and inclusion important for business? Is it not taking us away from our core focus area? My argument is that there is a business and economic rationale for involving the organization into issues of diversity management and inclusion. And one of the main advantages of a strong diversity management program is that it tends to encourage the development of talent and latent skills among employees. Individuals who may have felt unable to move forward in the company due to factors such as race, gender, or sexual orientation find that these attributes are no longer issues. And when this happens, employees begin to feel valued and are more willing to step outside their comfort zones and enhance their skill sets for the benefit of the team, the company as a whole, and for the individual. It's a very strong value proposition and the business and economic rationale for embarking on diversity management and inclusion. Furthermore, employees of organizations are becoming increasingly heterogeneous. With the passing of days, diversity is going to be an important issue for the human resources managers for a number of reasons. Among others are the following. A large number of women are joining the workforce. That's the first point. The second point, the workforce mobility is increasing and employees are moving from one area to another, one region to another, one country to another country, from one continent to another continent. Young workers in the workforce are increasing, which makes it quite very challenging in terms of generational gaps. International careers and expatriates are becoming common. More and more local markets find themselves having to deal with other employees from other parts of the world as expatriates, and they have to be integrated into the work environment. And more so when they work for the same multinational. It is no way that you can allow a situation where they feel unwanted in their own company, even though they are in a foreign country. And lastly, there's necessity of international experience that is felt for career progression to many top level managerial positions. More especially, diversity when built into organization at different levels offers the following benefits. Easy entrance to a changing market situation, large-scale business transformation, high-quality customer service, give power to workforce, total quality, alliances with suppliers and customers, and uninterrupted learning processes. These are some of the benefits associated with companies' diversity management and inclusion program. And it's quite very important that it is looked as such, and it becomes part of the overall corporate strategy of an organization. And of course, part of the business strategy, functional and operational strategy. Basically meaning that diversity management and inclusion is felt or should be felt at all levels of the organization, vertically and horizontally. Basically, at 360 degrees overall body of the organization. What are the best practices in terms of the design, development, and implementation of a company's specific diversity management and inclusion program? Development of a formal process that is contained in rules or procedures is one of the best practices. Basically, it means that diversity management and inclusion cannot be left loose as an informal intervention. It has to be formal with rules and procedures and guidelines that need to be followed. Human, financial, and time resources are and must be devoted to the program. So it does not come cheap, and it should not be left without being budgeted for and supported for in the form of resources and effort and time. Diversity is a process that is an integrated and ongoing and measurable strategy of an organization. And it's very much closer to the people's strategy of a company's strategy or corporate strategy. The next best practice is that diversity efforts are primarily decentralized with outlining the board requirements of the plans with individual divisions and departments developing their own plans that are tailored to their specific needs. Let me repeat this. Diversity efforts must be decentralized. However, in the decentralization of these diversity efforts, there must be clear outlined requirements by the board, or let me say by the senior leadership and management of the organization, with the plans that are cascaded into divisions and departments. In other words, at the point where the rubber is hitting the ground, there must be clarity and directive coming from the top and practiced at that level. This will reinforce a sense of ownership and ensures that managing diversity has both the top-level support and is a reality throughout the organization. Organizational diversity training is provided to the workforce. That's another best practice. It should not be left to people to fend for themselves. The organization must have an organization-wide approved diversity management and inclusion program, and every staff member must be given training to understand its ethos and what it means for the organization. The training cannot be limited to managers only. In fact, it's a waste of money and resources and time if we are only going to train managers and left the rest of the staff members out of it. Successful organizations incorporate diversity into mentoring efforts, leadership training, and management by results programs. What it means is that diversity is actually a glue, and it must be a component of all people-related development initiatives. If you leave it out, it's as good as leaving out the culture of an organization in putting together the content to these programs. Therefore, diversity informs this program and is critical to these programs, because diversity is not an activity but it's a strategy, and the activity is contained in a diversity management and inclusion program that is signed off by the top leadership, budgeted for, supported by everybody, with time taken out of the day-to-day activities to attend to the diversity management interventions. The other best practice is the utilization of the workforce data and demographics to compare statistics reported for the civilian or for the labor force. Occupations with underutilization are identified, and goals are then established to reduce the underutilization. So if people are underutilized simply because of differences, because of the preferences and so on and so on, that needs to be addressed and be removed out of the way. All of the best practices within the organization use affirmative action models, but each adds creative innovations that get results and set their programs apart. So basically here it's clear that diversity management is part of the affirmative action models, and in South African context, diversity management and inclusion program in a company qualifies as an affirmative action measure. However, the baseline must be determined so that when the objectives of a diversity management program are established, they are informed by the baseline, and they are focused or directed at achieving certain objectives that will be delivered through embarking on diversity management program and inclusion. Organizations have found that requiring affirmative action efforts through board order or other mandates compels divisions and departments to establish serious goals and to make earnest efforts toward meeting those goals. This best practice, simplified, it means that the board of any organization is the starting point in terms of strategically positioning diversity management and inclusion principle. And then, of course, the board will then mandate the executive to go and design, develop, and implement diversity management and report on it on a regular basis at the board level in terms of the impact that is being achieved by embarking on diversity management and inclusion program. Therefore, it's clear that diversity management and inclusion program is a key component of transformation and change management of any organization, and it's part of the corporate strategy of organizations. That's the best practice, and it's in this way that we make massive shift in terms of transforming the organization. Therefore, the other best practice following that is that organizations have established a review committees that are responsible for establishing policies, providing technical assistance, reviewing, approving plans, and monitoring progress toward the achievement of goals. In a South African context, you find that the transformation and change management committees or employment equity committees or diversity management and inclusion committees, skills development committees are established and to embrace diversity, and they fulfill the role of monitoring and evaluation and reporting on the progress that is being made either to the leadership or of the organization, but also then or to the authorities wherein some of these interventions are legislated, like Employment Equity Act that needs to be implemented through employment equity programs, which will then include diversity management as affirmative action measures. Effective diversity management programs also link recruitment, development, and retention strategies. This is quite very, very important. At the recruitment level, one must be able to observe the gaps in terms of diversity representation, but also in terms of practices. And therefore, if a need be, the organization needs to focus on recruiting people that are diverse or are different to the current baseline, to bring in diversity into the organization and enable the existing employees of the organization to learn to accommodate new diversities, and by so doing, transform the culture of the organization. Therefore, it's not just about bringing people into the organization, but also to integrate people who are different to us, who have just arrived into the organization, and learn from their experiences that they are bringing into the organization. And of course, this contributes to the retention of staff, and therefore it's quite very strategic, because retaining talent is a key strategic part of any business. We will not want to lose people that are critical to our business just because they are not being accommodated as a result of their diversity or their background that is different to us. Therefore, this impacts very heavily on the individual and organizational performance. So these organizations that apply diversity at recruitment, development, and retention strategy level, integrate employee development processes, and map career paths to see what critical skills are necessary to advance, and then, of course, communicate these skills to employees and provide necessary training for employees to flourish in the organization or to grow in the organization. The other best practices around accountability for the results of diversity management program, which is another attribute of best practice organizations. Accountability is determined through the use of metrics, surveys, focus groups, customer surveys, management and employee evaluations, and training and education evaluations. In this way, organizations can determine how employees deal with people of different cultures and styles, support workplace diversity, and include diverse people in work teams. And then, as a result of that, understand the impact of diversity on business relations. Lastly, while valuing and integrating diversity are lofty goals, to be effective, organizations must use more measurable criteria to evaluate success in managing diversity. In conclusion, one would like to emphasize the fact that diversity management and inclusion is not something that organizations have an option to, but it's something that ought to be done as long as organizations have enabled or allowed diverse people to come together to work, to contribute to the growth of business. So those are the key components of diversity management and inclusion. Let me just repeat what areas we covered in this talk. We covered the principles of diversity management and inclusion. We touched on the definition of diversity management and the definition of inclusion. We looked at the adaptability. We then looked at the processes that are followed in implementing diversity. We shared with you the business and economic rationale for a company to embark on diversity management and inclusion initiative, program, and strategy. And then we shared with you some guidelines that needs to be followed in the implementation of diversity management program. And in conclusion, we shared with you the best practices from the various sectors that have implemented diversity management and inclusion programs. Let me close by sharing with you this fact. COMESA runs regular workshops, public workshops on diversity management and inclusion, but we do also run in-company diversity management program facilitation. And in doing that, we engage prior to running the workshop with the champions of diversity management in all the organizations that we assist with this intervention, so that we design a program that is informed by the business cases or informed by the needs of the particular client. We often start by looking at the people strategy of organizations so that we are able to align our programs with those strategies. But the workshops are quite very interactive, very informative, and very participatory. And at the end of one full day workshop, employees go back to their places of work, having acquired a lot of vocabulary, knowledge, terminologies around the topics, but also having done role-playing to experience the blind spots that they may be having around the topic. This is quite very, very helpful, and it's always a basis or foundation for bringing in change in organizations. It's quite a very complex topic, and that's why it needs us as external facilitators to take colleagues through a full one-day workshop on diversity management and inclusion. And I always emphasize that the investment that is done in this way is always realized in a long, short-term, medium to long-term, in a form of healthy working environment, productive staff, progressive culture that are accommodating people of diversity, including all the complexities that come with it. And this is an invitation from me to you to say that do yourself a favor and take this very serious as a key enabler of your organization when it comes to people intervention. I thank you for having listened to me. Once again, we invite you to call us to come to your assistance. The telephone number is +27 11974 9308. The mobile number is +27 72376 7503. The email is callcenter@comesa-goc.com. You may also visit our website, www.comesa-goc.com. You can also check our Lekgotla website. We do use the Lekgotla methodology in facilitating these workshops. The website is www.comesa-pms-lekgotla.com. Lekgotla is spelled Lekgotla. You will find quite a number of explanations in this website on the concept of the Lekgotla, which is the African methodology that is used to facilitate dialogues, conversations, conflict resolutions, innovation and creativity, and thinking environments. We will also be glad to teach your champions the methodology so that they can apply it in their organization on a day-to-day basis. We thank you. We invite you to reflect on this presentation and check out by looking at the affirmations, confirmations, takeaways, insights that you've acquired, and more so decide on the new behaviors that you would like to display as a way of demonstrating that your level of awareness has improved. Enjoy this nice song as we say goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you again when we bring another episode under Commerce Human Capital Development Show. Goodbye.